Hey, everybody, welcome back to the SuperBake podcast. I'm your host, SuperBake. Let's talk about stuff. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. It's been quite a week. Um, got a few things to talk about. First, I'll give my reactions to the new Nintendo Direct for the Switch 2. Then, I'll give my thoughts on the teaser trailer that was released for Avengers Doomsday. I was originally going to do one episode for both of the directs, the one for last week for the last few games on the Switch, and then a separate one for the Switch 2. But I just decided to just focus mainly on the Switch 2 Direct, just because the first one, there really wasn't a whole lot there that caught my interest other than the Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remakes. That and also Metroid Prime 4. There were some others, but mostly those were the two that kind of stuck out to me. The rest of it I either kind of knew about or just wasn't that interested in. So I think the bigger news was the direct for the Switch 2. So that's what I'm going to focus on. Uh, I'm just going to say right off the bat, I kind of have mixed feelings on this. You'll kind of see why. I mean, if you've been following it at all online, you'll probably know right off the bat why I have mixed feelings on it. Same reasons as a lot of other people out there. So just the broad strokes, I'll just go over just some of the games that were announced as well as the Switch itself, like the release date. The console itself does release on June 5th of this year. So not too far off, just right around the corner, a few months off. It'll definitely get here pretty quick. But just a few games that I saw for the Switch 2 that caught my interest. One was Mario Kart World, which will be a launch title for the Switch 2, and it also will release on the same day as the Switch. Looks like they're going to offer essentially two versions of the Switch that you can purchase. One will be just the base console, and then there will also be the Mario Kart World and Switch 2 bundle. That's kind of cool. I mean, I know they do that. They do a lot of bundles with other consoles too, so not terribly surprising. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big racing fan. I do remember I'm dating myself saying this. The last time I owned a Mario Kart game was probably for the N64, that and the Super Nintendo. But I mean, I do like them. I have played them like on other Nintendo consoles like the GameCube and the Wii and Wii U, but those were usually just ones I either played at a friend's house or I borrowed from them. I have not owned a new Mario Kart game in quite some time, but this one looked pretty cool. I liked how it had the big open world, the different areas you could go to, like the snow region, the desert region. So that's kind of cool. So something to keep an eye out on. Something I saw for it was there was this one game they announced called the Switch 2 Welcome Tour, which I guess is supposed to be sort of like a demo for the console to kind of show you the different features that it offers. It made me think of Astro's Playroom for the PS5. But one thing about this that I did not like was the fact that it's supposed to be a paid digital game. So you actually have to pay to get it. I didn't like that. This seems like something that would just be a nice free feature to have with the console. So I don't quite understand that. Another game for it was Hyrule Warriors: Age of Imprisonment. When I first saw the trailer for this, I actually thought it was going to be like a brand new Zelda title, like maybe a sequel to Tears of the Kingdom. So got excited for that for a split second, and then I realized it wasn't. And I was like, oh well, fuck. All right, great. But I mean, I liked Age of Calamity. It was a fun game, fun Dynasty Warriors game with the Zelda skin slapped onto it. So that was pretty cool. If you hear me flipping around on pages, it's because I took notes on it as I was watching it, and the direct, at least the one that I watched, they kind of went back and forth between like they talked about games and then they talked about the features the console would have. So that was kind of weird how they had it broken up. The other game that really caught my interest was Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is supposed to come out July 17th. That actually looked, for me at least, that was probably the most interesting game, or at least the interesting Switch 2 exclusive. Kind of gave me vibes of Deep Rock Galactic in a way. I used to play that game with my buddies quite a bit, and I really dug that game. Just like the whole mining aspect of the game. It seems like they've incorporated that into this new Donkey Kong game where you can smash the ground and pick up chunks of the earth and throw them at enemies. I like that aspect, so that definitely has me really curious about this game. I mean, assuming I get a Switch too, I'll get into that a little bit later. They also showed some games from some publishing partners. One was Hades 2, which apparently is coming out this year. They didn't give a clear-cut direct date. They just said 2025, but we got more gameplay footage for that, and we got a release window, so that was nice. That was cool to see that. Another one that I thought was interesting that caught my interest was Project 007. They didn't give any details on it. We just saw the title for it, but apparently it is a new 007 game. So, not sure if maybe this might be a GoldenEye remake or remaster. So, that's interesting. Something to keep an eye out on. Next up was, go to the next page. My notes are kind of all over the place. This one was really interesting and kind of caught me off guard. They had gameplay footage for Hollow Knight Silk Song, and apparently we got a 2025 release window. I was really thrown off by this. I love Hollow Knight. I've really been wanting Silk Song to come out, so this one actually really caught me off guard. But the funny thing was, all the other games, or at least most of them on the list that I've talked about so far, they had somebody like from the publisher actually discussing the games and showing details on them. And this one, there was nobody talking about it, which really threw me off. It just kind of was snuck in there. And I was just like, whoa, hang on, like back up. I want to see more about this. Like, I think a lot of people felt that way. Like, we've all been wanting Silk Song for so long, and then they finally give it to us. And then it's just kind of like, oh, yeah, and here's this game. It's like, damn, you freaking bastards could have given us more on that. Another game that also caught my interest was The Dusk Bloods, another FromSoft game, which is supposed to release in 2026. I don't think this is going to be a Switch 2 exclusive. I'm sure this is going to be on other consoles, but just the look of it, it reminded me a lot of Bloodborne. Actually, for a split second, I thought this was a sequel to Bloodborne, but apparently FromSoft has, at least I believe they've confirmed in an interview that this is not related to Bloodborne in any way. This is a brand new IP, so there's no relation to that game, but just the look of it, it definitely reminded me of that a lot. It has that kind of medieval look. Your main character, I guess you're supposed to be a vampire or something. I'm not really super clear on like what the story is there. Assume more about it's going to be revealed as we get closer to the release date. But yeah, I mean, we got to see some test footage of it, or some gameplay footage of it. Got to see some of the combat in action. It definitely looks like a FromSoft game. So I'm really kind of getting into those and Souls-like games just from playing Lies of P and Lords of the Fallen. So I'll keep an eye out on this one, especially if it's going to be on other consoles, which I assume it will. I don't remember if they actually confirmed that or not. But I mentioned before that I had mixed emotions on this release or this direct, and gonna get into that, my reasons for that. So the main reason that I have mixed feelings on this is because of the price tag. The console itself is going to be the base console will be $450, and if you get the Mario Kart World bundle, it'll be $500. Um, the price of the console itself is not incredibly surprising to me. I mean, I'm not too crazy about it, but it's not that surprising because I believe I heard that this console is supposed to be, in terms of power, it's supposed to be comparable to the PS4 or possibly PS4 Pro. I have not confirmed that, so I don't know for sure if that's true, but I thought I heard somewhere it's supposed to be comparable to that console. So the $450 to $500 price tag is not terribly surprising. I kind of figured it was going to be somewhere in the $400 to $500 range. What is disappointing though is what the cost of the individual games is going to be. And as of the direct, they said that the cost of digital games will be $80 and then physical copies will be $90. So that was definitely surprising and definitely a bit of a sticker shock. And then there was another update that came out just today, like just before I started to record this podcast. So I had to get this in here too. Apparently, now pre orders for the Switch 2 were supposed to go out, I believe, next week on April 9th. Well, that has apparently been pushed back, as far as I'm aware, indefinitely. So we'll have to wait and see like what the updates are on that. And the reason for it is because Donald Trump came out yesterday at the time of this recording and announced the reciprocal tariffs that were going to go into place on different countries. And so now Nintendo essentially has stated that they are taking time to reassess, I assume, the price of the Switch and their games before they release it. So that's why they are suspending pre-orders for the console. So nothing has been confirmed yet, so we don't know what's going to happen. There's a rumor circulating that the price of the console could go up as much as 50%. So, like, I crunched the number, and I believe, like, for a $450 console, that would be, like, $675, something like that. Again, I don't think this is confirmed, so don't know for sure if that's gonna happen, but yeah, that's everybody seems pretty much convinced that that's what's going on, that they're going to in response to the tariffs, they're going to probably raise the cost of the console, and I would assume the games too. So, even before I knew about the tariffs going into place, I was still very disappointed with the cost of games from Nintendo. Just because the cost of a new game on the Switch, the base Switch model is like 60 bucks. So to go from that to $90 for a physical copy, a $30 increase essentially, was very disappointing to me. Like I feel like even if Nintendo had increased it to 70 bucks to match like a brand new base game for the PS5, I think people would still be upset, but they could at least kind of understand it because let's face it, the PS5 and other developers are probably going to up the cost of their games pretty soon too. But at least then Nintendo would be comparable to that or competitive. But now it just feels like I don't know, it's really frustrating for me, especially as somebody who was genuinely excited about the Switch 2. This really felt like it just knocked the wind out of my sails. And the other thing too is now I feel like Pandora's box has been opened because there's no way, again, putting aside the tariffs for a second, because that's a whole other thing. But even if that wasn't happening, you know there's no way in hell other game developers are going to look at this and not raise the cost of their games. I mean, how could they not? There was already a rumor going around that GTA 6 was going to cost something like $100. So other developers are going to look at this and how could they possibly not be excited after Nintendo makes this announcement, especially if it's true that the Switch 2 is comparable to the PS4. Other developers are going to look at this and think, well, if Nintendo can charge 450 to $500 for a console that's essentially tech-wise on the same level as a last gen console, then of course we can charge 90 to $100 or maybe even more at this point, depending just how things are in the market right now. I'm going to be honest with you, and I realize in the grand scheme of things, video games, I love video games, but it's not that big of a deal. Like I don't need video games, but I do enjoy them. They are a source of escapism for me. But I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I'm going to end up getting a Switch 2 right away or even at all. I would say right now, if I do end up getting one, it's not going to be for a while. It probably won't even be this year. It may not even be until sometime next year, honestly, in 2026. It's going to really depend on how things play out. The other reason, too, is just right now, there, just based on this announcement, there really aren't too many games on the Switch that I'm incredibly interested in, at least not enough to convince me to get it. I like the look of Mario Kart World. It does look cool, but again, I'm not a big racing fan. The only game in there that I really think I would be determined to get if I had the Switch 2 would be the new Donkey Kong game. But I can't justify paying that much money for just one game. Metroid Prime 4 looks cool, but I've never played any of the Metroid games. I'm not familiar with that series. Not to say I wouldn't try it, maybe, but I don't know. I'm not super excited about that one. So it's really just Donkey Kong that I'm the most interested in right now. It's just disappointing though, because a lot of the games that were revealed for this did look really cool, and I was genuinely excited until I saw the price tag. And now with the possibility that the price is even going to go up further, that just makes me even less likely to pick it up. Yeah, I would say right now, unless Nintendo really announces some stellar games coming out on this console, I don't know. It's going to really depend. I, of course, across the board, if the cost of games goes up, who knows? My days playing games may be numbered, or at the very least, um, maybe not numbered. That might be a little bit too dramatic. I think I'll always enjoy video games to some extent, but I may have to scale back significantly now, or just plug away at the old backlog and check out some of my older games, or maybe just replay some games I've already got. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the direct. Again, mixed emotions. Was excited, went into this with really high expectations, and yeah, I just kind of felt like they were shattered. And I know a lot of people are mad at Nintendo about this, and to be fair, I am frustrated with them too. But on the other hand, I kind of wonder how much of this is Nintendo and how much of this is Nintendo responding to how things are. I don't know. Like, again, going back to the tariff thing, maybe they knew about this or had an idea this was going to happen, and maybe they were seeing the writing on the walls, and this is their way of trying to maybe calculate for that. I don't know. Not a businessman, so I couldn't speak to that. But either way, this is definitely a very disappointing direct for me. Probably one of the most disappointing directs that I've experienced in the last few years, which really sucks because considering this was supposed to be the big reveal for the Switch 2, the sequel to one of Nintendo, at least in my opinion, one of their most successful consoles. It just sucks that it's left such a horrible stain on this company. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how they respond, and if the price does go up, or if it stays the same, or even if I know Nintendo's facing quite a bit of backlash over this. I don't know if maybe they'd be willing to lower the price a little bit. I very much doubt it. But unfortunately, I think as far as not just Nintendo, but as far as video games as a whole, I think that this is going to be a pretty bad sign of things to come. So, not a lot of optimism here. So, next I'll talk about the Avengers Doomsday teaser. Kind of a teaser, really just more of a confirmation that the movie exists. But the movie comes out May 1st of 2026, and then the next film in the series, Secret Wars, comes out May of 2027. Apparently, this was inspired by the Secret Wars comics from Marvel. I'm pretty sure I've said this before in the podcast. I don't really read comics that much, so I don't know much about them. Apparently, the big news with this one is that Robert Downey Jr. is returning to the MCU, but this time to play Doctor Doom instead of Iron Man. So that was a big announcement. I remember that was at I don't remember if it was at San Diego Comic Con. It was at some big event. I want to say last year where he came out in the Doctor Doom costume. I feel like there was like a few people on stage that had the costume on, but then it was revealed that he was actually Doctor Doom, and a lot of people got really excited about that. I was sort of kind of on the fence about it. On the one hand, I really do like Robert Downey Jr. I think he's a great actor. On the other hand, I don't know how I feel about him coming back to the MCU to play a villain. I'm not familiar with, I mean, I know the Fantastic Four okay from like the cartoons and stuff and the movies from like the 2000s, but I'm not super familiar with him as a villain. But then again, I wasn't that familiar with Thanos until he was introduced in the MCU. I didn't even know who he was prior to that. But I mean, I have faith in Robert Downey Jr. as an actor. I think he's really good, especially as a villain. I mean, he can play a good villain too. He was really good in Oppenheimer. But it's weird going from Tony Stark to Doctor Doom, especially since Tony Stark is such an iconic role for him. I mean, that was kind of the role that revitalized his career after his bout with drug abuse. So for him to come back and play a villain in the MCU is, I mean, I guess it could work, but it's going to be really interesting. The other thing too about this is that the MCU for the last few years has really kind of been kind of all over the place. I haven't really watched a lot of their shows, and I haven't watched a lot of their movies in recent memory, but the last superhero movie I watched was Deadpool and Wolverine. And yeah, I mean, I'm kind of getting a little burnt out on superhero films, and the MCU just kind of feels like it's losing its edge, at least for me. I mean, I'll probably check this out. It's an Avengers movie. This is kind of their big. This is the MCU's big film, so I'll probably check this one out when it releases. I mean, depending on how the footage looks for it. But yeah, like I just, if I'm being honest, I feel like the MCU is really kind of losing it, especially the last few movies that they've made. The multiverse saga has been kind of up and down, hit and miss, I guess, with me. Like I liked Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness for the most part, but I felt like it was kind of a missed opportunity there. You had Sam Raimi behind the helm of that movie, and especially with the multiverse stuff, I feel like there was a lot they could have done with it, and they just kind of didn't. And then Ant Man Quantumania was okay. We got to see Kang as the villain in that one, but now they've moved away from that. Kang's no longer the big baddie of the MCU. I think part of that was the fact that the multiverse saga didn't do too well among movie fans, and also the controversy with the actor Jonathan Majors. I'm kind of surprised they wouldn't just recast King, especially since, with a character like that, when you've got the multiverse and there's like literally infinite versions of him, it seems like the one character that it would make the most sense to recast. But if I had to guess, I would say just because the multiverse saga wasn't as well received as the previous one with Thanos, so maybe the MCU just figured it was best to just count their losses and move on. So I don't know as far as like how this is going to work as far as setting up future films, since, as far as I'm aware, I don't think they've made any mention of Doctor Doom in any of the previous movies, since again, they were kind of building up towards Kang being the main villain of the new saga in the MCU. But anyway, I'll just kind of talk about the trailer a little bit. I mean, not much there really. It's mostly just a sweeping shot where it shows the different actors and actresses that are going to be in this one. It's quite a list. Few surprises was that some of the actors from the old X-Men movies from the 2000s are going to be in this one, such as Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. Like, that was surprising. Like, they're returning to play their respective roles as Professor Xavier and Magneto. So that caught me by surprise. And then, of course, Vanessa Kirby and Pedro Pascal from the Fantastic Four movie that's coming out this year are also going to be in this one. I do know, just I, for full context, I do know that the Avengers and the Fantastic Four and the X Men do meet up in the comics, although I don't know very much about that in terms of the details. The reason I say that is just because I'm aware it happens in the comics, but I kind of feel like with all the actors and actresses in this movie, I can't help but wonder like if this isn't Marvel just kind of throwing a bunch of shit at the wall to see what sticks. Especially just the fact that they're bringing back Robert Downey Jr. in this one. I can't help but wonder like is is this the MCU like kind of a desperate Hail Mary to try to get people back into the movie theaters to see their films? It wouldn't surprise me if that's what's happening here. I'm not really sure on that. I did like the little touch in the trailer where it showed you don't see the other actors and stuff in their chairs, but you do see Robert Downey Jr. at the very end of the line, and he actually just kind of, shushes the camera a little bit. That was a nice little touch, very Tony Stark esque. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of Tony Stark's character in Doctor Doom. Whatever we get of him in the movie, I think we're going to see a lot of that in here. But as far as thoughts go, just on this one in general, I mean, until I see any real concrete footage of this movie, I'm going to kind of reserve judgment a little bit. But I suppose on the whole, I'm excited to see another Avengers movie. The last one we had was Endgame back from 2019. So it's been a while since we've had one. It's been a minute. So that'll be kind of nice again, just because I feel like some of the smaller MCU films haven't been that memorable. So it would be nice to go back to a major blockbuster again. I guess as far as concerns go, I'm kind of nervous about how they're going to handle all these characters in this movie. It's going to be a lot of characters in the plot, and well, I definitely have faith in everyone involved from an acting perspective. I think they can carry their respective roles. I guess one thing that I'm kind of nervous about is how are the writers going to handle this? How are they going to handle this many characters? I guess my concern there is that the plot's going to be so stretched thin that you're really only going to be able to maybe focus on maybe a handful of characters and give them an actual proper A, B, and C plot, and then everybody else will just kind of be in the background. Don't really know the details in the plot. I don't even know if anything's really been revealed yet. As far as I'm aware, I don't think the budget for it's been released yet either. Speaking of budgets, I actually wanted to talk about that because one thing that I was kind of curious about with the Avengers movies was the budgets for the films, how much it cost them to produce and make, and how much they made in the global box office. So I went back. I'm not going to give you the numbers for every Marvel movie that's been made, but just for the first four Avengers films, I'll just talk about that just very briefly. The first Avengers movie it had a budget of $225 million and it grossed about $1.5 billion in the global box office. So, pretty good success. Next film, Avengers Age of Ultron, had a budget of about 365 million and grossed about 1.4 billion dollars in the global box office. So, again, pretty good. Slightly lower than the first Avengers film and had a bigger budget too, over $100 more. So, but still pretty good. Next up, Avengers of Infinity War, which in my personal opinion was the best one. That's my personal favorite out of all the Avengers films. That had a budget of $300 million dollars and grossed right around $2 billion dollars in the global box office. So slightly lower budget than Age of Ultron, which surprised me since this Infinity War was when they finally brought in Thanos. So I'm kind of surprised the budget was lower, and especially since they had more heroes and villains in that one. I'm just really surprised that it was a lower budget, but that's what I found online. Next up was Avengers Endgame, and that had the largest budget by far of $400 million, and it grossed about $2.7 billion in the global box office. So, not surprised that that one had a huge budget. I would guess Doomsday is probably going to have between 3 to 400 million dollar budget, maybe more. If they're bringing back Robert Downey Jr. and they have all these big names in the movie, there's no doubt in my mind that they're going to demand a pretty high salary for this one. But yeah, I guess I for now I am cautiously optimistic. I would love to get back in theaters and watch the Avengers again on the big screen. I think that'd be cool. And the prospect of Robert Downey Jr. coming back is neat, although I am a little concerned about maybe what it means for the state of the MCU and if maybe this is a sign that they're nervous and they're trying to find a way to encourage people to come see their film. I guess time will tell. We'll have to see what happens when this comes out. But for now, I mean, I guess I'm a little excited. As excited as I can be as somebody who is not as invested in superhero films as much as I used to be. So, all right, everybody. I think that's going to conclude tonight's episode. Once again, if you like what you heard, I am on Anchor, Spotify, and YouTube. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and I will catch you all next time. Take care, everyone.